Thank you. So folks, we got good feedback 2 years ago when we called our State of Holmdel address or presentation or whatever you want to refer to it as. The purpose of this is to provide transparency and context. I mean, that's really it. And anybody that's looked at a municipal budget or wonders what we consider or how we consider it when we're making decisions and the things that go into that, that's what we try to sort of clarify and exhibit here. In addition to whatever trends we can identify as well to show progression, over a number of years instead of looking at things in isolation. So went well 2 years ago. We're going to try it again. So for those of you that are not familiar, we are your governing body. I'm Mayor Impreveduto, Deputy Mayor Foster, Committeeman Romano, Committeeman Vanderham, and Committeeman Bontempo. Before we get rolling, though, I do want to thank a few people. So one, I do want to thank Eric Silvergold for the work he's done, providing invaluable context and information and analysis on the financial trends of the town, as well as comparables to others. And I really do want to thank everyone in Town Hall and the hard work they put in. Bill Antonides, our CFO, Barbara Kowaleski, Chris Trevini, Steve Winters, Bob Ward, Brian O'Malley, Brian Nagel, Chief Ackerson, Chief Hernando, and Chief Tresquita, even though he's not in Town Hall. But everybody was able to, contribute a little bit to this and help us out as we pull this together. I also overall want to just acknowledge the Finance Committee. We're introducing the budget tonight. There's going to be a month where everyone can sort of evaluate and analyze it, but that's also where our Finance Committee comes in. These are folks with backgrounds in finance and trading and mathematics and economics. There's a small business owner in there as well, so he's very particular about the puts and takes of a budget. So we do have really great citizen representation when looking at our budget process overall, and we have really good and interesting analysis in terms of again how things are progressing as we go forward. So a big thank you to all those folks and truly appreciate it. So this is our town at a glance. We have over 17,400 residents. We're on about 18 square miles, about 125 road miles, more than 6,500 homes. And as Mr. Blumenthal said earlier, although our friends in Atlantic Highlands like to disagree with me, we are the highest point in Monmouth County. We have incredible landmarks that make our home a place that uniquely marries world-defining events and American history with modern entertainment experiences. Bell Works on its own is a truly innovative experience for anybody that's been in there and used it and gone through and seen how it honors our history of innovation, but also allows for different types of activities and use. And then of course we have the Holmdel horn antenna, which was a world-defining invention, providing evidence that the Big Bang Theory was the start of the universe. And then we anchor to our history with Long Street Farm. We honor American history with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and then of course the Art Center in Holmdel Park. So we are a town, and people don't always realize it, of really incredible landmarks that we should be very proud of. In addition to that, we have amazing parks. They decorate our landscape, and they're a reminder of our ongoing commitment to recreation and open space. You might recognize the names of Locko and Ackerson on those parks. We also have Bayonet Farm Park, where we had Earth Day there just this past weekend. Veterans Park, Phillips Park, Alex's Paw Park, which honestly, whether you have a dog or not, is absolutely fabulous, and the family there has done such a wonderful job. And then Labby and Cross Farm as well. And then of course coming soon for access, Robert Wilson Park, the site of Crawford Hill. So some of the information you're going to see today is repetitive from a couple years ago, because not much in terms of our perspective has changed. Some things will be different and some things will be focused on differently. We look at the town in terms of what we view as our cultural pillars: public safety, open space, recreation, fiscal responsibility, innovation, and education. Our job is to best serve the interests of Holmdel and our residents by embracing and enhancing the characteristics that have made our town one of the best places to live in New Jersey, while maintaining fiscal conservatism within our governance process so we can ensure the financial health and well-being of our town. I want to dig into our demographics a bit here. It's an interesting thing as we started looking at it more and more from the Finance Committee perspective. The town has changed over the past 15 to 25 years, if not more. So, number one, Holmdel far surpasses, as you may expect, Monmouth County, New Jersey, and the United States in home value, median income, and mean income. But going from the top down, our median age is about 49 years old, so we're older than Monmouth County, New Jersey, and the US. Folks that are 65 and older comprise 23% of the town. We're older than most. We have about, as I mentioned, 6,500 housing units. There are about 2.7 people per household. Less than 31% of our households have kids, which is an interesting change, and we'll talk more about that as we go. The typical home value sits, nearly $1.1 million, and we are a well-educated town, and we are proud of that, with 67% with a bachelor's degree or higher, and a median income and a mean income that is, again, higher than Monmouth County, almost double that of New Jersey, and far surpassing the US. And against Monmouth County and New Jersey, our population per square mile is far lower. We're a less dense municipality than many others. So the population growth is slowing after a period of significant development in the 90s. So if you'll look, the period from 90 to 95, the population grew about 20%. From 95 to 2000, it was 14%. And from there, we started leveling off. And you'll see 4%, 2%. And really over the past 5 years now, we've flattened out to less than 0.5% in population growth. So we're sitting in that 17,400 range overall. Our efforts to procure open space and mitigate the impact of Trenton-mandated housing will help keep that stabilized. As we'll talk about later on, we do place a priority on finding ways to procure open space and prevent development. So, speaking about our population and our aging, we're not just a bit older, we're aging faster than Monmouth County, New Jersey, and the United States. So it's an interesting dynamic about, and you'll see this later. It wasn't too long ago we were nearly 50-50 with homes that had kids in them and homes that didn't. That's changing. It's also a sign from my vantage point that Holmdel is a great place to live and people don't want to go, and we certainly appreciate that. What that's indicative of is the 46.5% in 2010 were homes with kids in them. 53.5% were homes that did not have kids in them. Back in 2000, that number was almost 50-50. Now, as I mentioned earlier, so almost 70% of the homes in town do not have kids in them anymore. So the age demographic of our town has changed dramatically over the past, not just 25 years, really over the past 10 to 15. So when you look at the trends that come of that, we know Monmouth County's birth rate has declined by approximately 20% since 1999, which is not dissimilar to national trends. And in line with those macro dynamics and our aging population, enrollment in Holmdel schools has declined by 21%. So, back in 2003, if I recall correctly, we peaked at close to 3,600, and we're now sitting, and so the left axis is the orange line, that's our school enrollment. We're now down around 2,800. And then the right axis is the birth rate and how that's changed over time as well. There's a pretty interesting correlation to the two. It's really just, again, sort of an alignment between macro dynamics and an overall aging population, folks that like Holmdel and want to stick around. So that's the complexion of our town, and what we see in terms of the trends and our aging and where we sit relative to Monmouth County in terms of our affluence and education. From a financial standpoint, I wanted to just provide some understanding of what we laid out here. When you look at a township budget, the township budget includes grants, okay? Those grants get added to the budget after they've sort of come through, and then the budget is higher than what was originally proposed. What you're going to see from a financial overview and trends perspective here is our budget without grants applied to them, because we wanted to have a clear look at the dollars coming in and how those dollars are being spent. Dollars coming in via the taxpayers and our other mechanisms of revenue, and how those dollars are being spent. So this is just clarification on why you might see some differences in the budget that we're introducing this evening, and then we have a public hearing on it a month from now. versus what's being presented on these slides. These slides are simply for the dollars that are coming in the door and how they're being spent. So our financial health, the headline here is that it's strong, but we may have headwinds looming in coming years, so we're continuing to spend intelligently while battling non-discretionary costs. We're still AAA rated, we have a stable tax rate, we have a $9.1 million fund balance, and the pilot, as you'll see, has declined, but it still sits at about $7 million. Your property taxes contribute to 3 separate and distinct budgets. They go to Monmouth County, Holmdel Township, and the Holmdel Board of Education. 70%, 69.6, of your tax dollars goes to the Holmdel School District, which is a little over $72 million. 16.6 of your tax dollars come to the township. That includes 2.3% for the Municipal Open Space Fund. And then a little under 14% goes to Monmouth County, which goes into their budget for library, health, and open space. Overall, Holmdel's tax levy is approximately $104 million, so that's the composition of it. And we'll put this all online for everybody to see, of course, and then pour through tomorrow. Again, we're doing this for transparency purposes. Your property taxes only account for about 44% of all township revenues. The budget this year will be about $33.6 million, and it's comprised of 4 distinct revenue streams. The blue box you see at the top is actually the miscellaneous box. We'll explain that in a moment, but the rest is taxes, pilot, and surplus, which is really our appropriation of fund balance. Miscellaneous are one-time benefits and ancillary fees received by the town. So state energy tax receipts, uniform construction code fees, receipts from delinquent taxes, interest, income on interest, interest on income, et cetera, et cetera. But those are the 4 main buckets for the dollars that actually come in. Those revenue streams fund the entirety of our operating infrastructure. Public safety comprises nearly 30% of the overall budget. So that includes fire, police, EMS, which not in the EMS case, but includes personnel, certainly equipment with EMS. Public works is about 10%. That's roads, central repairs, snow removal, and recycling. We have general government, which is 9%, IT, administration, finance, and legal, and then community development and recreation. So as you can see, departmental spending is responsible for 51% of all township expenditures. Non-departmental spending is comprised of debt service, employee pension plans, insurance, and then sort of a remainder, which is a mixed bag of tax reserves, utilities, shared services, and capital improvement. Breaking it down by revenue type shows that nearly 60% of our expenses are tied to salaries, pensions, and insurance. So if you look at the top 3 rows, salaries and wages are nearly $12.5 million, that's 35%. Social Security and pension, about $4.2 million, that sits at 12.5%. And insurance comes in at nearly $3 million at 8.5%. So that's about 58% or so of all of our expenses. The rest are comprised of debt service, and then you look at public works, general government, and public safety, which are all non-wage expenses. So you think equipment, et cetera. That goes into that. Then our tax reserves and our utilities. That ladders us up to that 33.5, 33.6. So when we look at our budget for 2026, we look back at our trend line. And so we want to continue a more conservative approach to municipal spending. And what we did here is we lined up, the top line is our budget since 2017. The bottom line is sort of a hypothetical, what we'd be spending if we were in line with inflation, okay? So over the last 10 years, our municipal budget's increased 55%, inflation's increased 38%. The key spend drivers for the township are salaries and wage increases, debt service, pensions, and insurance. Most of those things are pretty locked in, especially when when a large portion of our salaries and wages are tied to public safety, which is our police. So the budget, however, it is increasing 1.2 million year over year, but the municipal tax rate is going to remain flat year over year. So the municipal tax rate is not going to increase, which is something we've held to for the past several years. Our debt service has fluctuated in recent years, so we're working diligently to quickly pay it off so we can move on to other priorities. You'll see there was a substantial spike from 2019 really to 2023, going from about 10% to 17%. We've paid some down, we've also procured some property, and it's come back up a little bit. Our debt service in relation to the revenues coming in is fine. Our bond rating will stay AAA, there's no impact, there's no concern, there is nothing related in line with our, in regards to our debt rating that is causing us any concern right now, other than we want to pay it off. We want to pay it off as quickly as we can. That'll be better for everybody, and it'll allow us to dedicate resources to other areas. So principal and interest are high, but we're going to rapidly work against that to get it down. So for the first time, the pilot revenues fell, and that was in 2025. And our budget is, as I said 2 years ago, heavily reliant on that revenue stream. The pilot dollars, since they started coming into the town 8 years ago, 9 years ago, were rolled into the operating budget. So while they rapidly increased from 18 to 24, we saw our first decline. That doesn't mean Bell Works is in trouble or the 55 plus community is having issues. Things are filled to the capacity to be filled at. Ralph and that team are working to ensure that there are leases and subleases that keep going. It's just, it declined this year and it's starting to level off a little bit. Okay, so we've got to plan differently than we have in the past, which is to plan for a budget that's not going to see, you know, a constant increase coming through, but one that's sort of plateaued from this fund and is going to level off in the future. Now, where the pilot revenues have been beneficial is that it's allowed us to hold taxes down while spending on the municipal level has increased. So if you look on the left, you'll see a slight increase, I think from 14.3 million to 14.8, if I'm not mistaken, over the past nearly decade in terms of the dollars that have come into the town and taxes raised. But when you adjust it for inflation, you're actually paying less than you did 8, 9 years ago. So, you know, the pilot has been beneficial to everybody in the community for that reason. It's not only allowed us to fund and do different things for the township and make improvements, but it's also allowed residents, particularly as you see a demographic that is aging in town and increasing on a fixed income, hold the taxes flat. So the municipal taxes do remain our largest revenue source at 44%, but their share has fallen sharply from 66% in 2017. The revenue streams that have come in have helped us do that. By comparison, Monmouth County averages 60%, right? So the taxes are 60% of their other towns. Municipal taxes are 60% of their revenue source. We're far lower. Pilot revenues have increased markedly, and they represent about 16% of the revenues that are coming in. And the surplus fund balance contributes about 22.5%, 23% of revenues, which is basically the dollars we have to pay our bills while the tax dollars come in. So that's the sort of composition, and those are the trend lines over the past, again, 9 to 10 years. I think, you know, looking at things year to year in isolation doesn't always get the point across. So we like to show everybody how we're trending and how it's going forward. From a prioritization standpoint, again, we anchor our priorities to the 6 pillars that we mentioned earlier: open space, recreation, fiscal responsibility, innovation, education, and public safety. So to responsibly enhance our town and provide more for our residents and preserve our culture, we really look at procuring outside funding and grants. And Barbara Kowaleski in particular has done a phenomenal job of this. And so we have grants that are that we've submitted for and received, everything from the improvements to the high school, at the entranceway to the high school, to Robert Wilson Park, to the community energy plan grant, to the Safe Streets grant that we just passed at the last meeting. In all, over the past couple of years, we've received about $6 million or so in grants for the town to help us see through these projects. And it's really important. So it's an incredible lift and incredible help, and it's great to have the right professionals in our town on those things. Received or submitted, I should say. The township also continues to maintain a strong relationship with the Holmdel Board of Education. We are collaborative, respectful, and we have an open dialogue with them, and we're focused on helping our students thrive. So over the past 3 to 4 years, school security, we've covered the cost of school security, which is annually about $500,000. It started escalating after 23. That's a total cost to the town of $1.4 million. We provided capital relief last year that defrayed the cost of courtesy busing to the tune of $600,000. We added lights to the athletic fields at the high school in Sats. That was around $400,000. We made repairs and structural improvements, or we paid for repairs and structural improvements to the Duncan Smith Theater, which was under $85,000. We restructured the entrance to the high school and improved traffic flow to eliminate the daily choke point that had occurred when start times were aligned. We received a $3.5 million grant, and we supplemented that with another $1.5 million bond from the town. And then we recently moved to purchase the Lubkert House and the 3 surrounding acres, which has ties to an original Holmdel family. That was a one-time purchase, a little over $1 million. So the total over the past few years, when you include the grant, it's about $8.5 million from Township to the Holmdel school system. Without the grant, it's a little over $5 million. So, the net, as we sort of, get to this part of things, is we've been able to do things for the town. We've been able to support the schools in historic ways in which they've never been supported before. We've been able to embark on new projects, and we've also been able to keep the tax rate flat. Again, adjusted for inflation, people are actually paying less than they did 10 years ago. From a recreation standpoint, the courts at Bailey Lane, we launched that in 2024. They've been incredibly popular with pickleball, basketball, tennis, and volleyball. Bob, has the the reservation system, and folks can just go there without. We don't try to tell too many people out of town that, but folks can go there without reserving time. But it's been incredibly popular over the past couple of years, and we're pleased with that. And then now in 26, we're replacing the old playground at Cross Farm Park with a new inclusive playground that allows children of all abilities to play together. I've seen some of the work done. It's beautiful. It's going to be amazing when we unveil that in a couple of weeks. We have numerous activities and events celebrating America's 250th birthday, culminating with final celebration at this year's Harvest Fest on October 10th. We're going to be resurfacing the main pool at the swim club and replacing the basketball stanchions and backboards. And we're going to continue to work with our veterans to provide more experiential and social and informational opportunities as well. So our recreation team, much like our public works folks, they work when nobody else does, right? So those are the folks that are working nights and weekends to put on these programs and to do these things to the benefit of everyone. And so they do an exceptional job. Preservation of open space is really paramount to us. We want to ensure the best of our ability that we're honoring our agricultural roots, but also preventing overdevelopment. Over the past 3 years, we've made preserving Holmdel's natural beauty a top priority. The results speak for themselves. The gateway to Holmdel and the home of the Holmdel horn antenna are among the history-defining acquisitions we've made. And our approach follows one simple rule. If there was a development before, there's likely going to be a development again. If property has never been developed, we're going to do everything in our power to prevent new development. I go back to this, and this is just a personal comment by me. I'd love for the town to look as close to what it was when I graduated high school here. And we all know change happens. We know things, progress and evolve. But to the extent with which we can keep Holmdel, that's our goal. So over the past 3 years alone, we've managed to procure nearly 70 acres between Crawford Hill, the aforementioned Crawford Hill, Potter's Farm, the St. Catherine's Tract, and the Lubkert House. So we also were the first committee in nearly a quarter century to actually use the open space fund to acquire open space. That had been used, I think, to maintain some open space and maybe for some other things as well. So we were able to leverage that appropriately to try to prevent overdevelopment in our town. And we're continuing to work toward acquisitions with Papa's Farm, something that we are paying very close attention to and engaging with to try to procure that next as well. So we're on a roll and we're not stopping. Our continued focus and investment and enhancement to public safety actually has yielded measurable improvements. And I wanted to show this because it wasn't terribly long ago that I felt like every other day, certainly every week, someone was dealing with an attempted break-in of their car, an attempted theft, or having their car actually stolen. As you can see, attempted thefts are the lighter box and actual thefts are the darker box. We had about 27 in 2019. That skyrocketed to almost 90 in 2022. And that steadily reduced over the next 4 years. Under Mayor Foster, we were down to 7. And this year, there's been one attempt through the first 4 months of the year. That comes from the state-of-the-art equipment, like license plate readers and cloud-based recording equipment we've funded for our police, trainings and new hires to maximize the reach of our police force, and the upgraded facilities and trainings that go with that. We're investing here because public safety is paramount. Right. We're also this year going to move to county dispatch. The county dispatch will provide us with better technology, more consistent staffing, tighter coordination with neighboring towns, and alignment with the Holmdel Fire Department, who's already on county dispatch. When I say better coordination with neighboring towns, every town around us is on county dispatch. We shouldn't have to go through disparate systems. What if someone were to steal a car and we have to communicate with Middletown or Hazard or Cold Stack to make sure that we're appropriately trying to find that person and stop them from going further away. We need efficiency, we need speed, and this will help us get there. It's going to be a better service to our community and to our residents. So the work we've done, and listen, the credit goes to the police chief, Rocco and Ackerson, the police force overall, and I'd say the increased vigilance of our residents as well. But this incredible spike in 21 and 22 came down rapidly. And I also want to credit former Mayor Lucarelli. He introduced an ordinance in 23 to constrict, I'm pretty sure it was 23, Mike, to constrict the ability for people to even attempt to steal cars. And it was a little bit of a supplement to the normal laws, right? Not allowing people to peer through windows of cars on other people's property and things of that nature, to sort of try to further blunt the efforts of folks to disrupt our township. So really great work here by the police chief, and we're proud to keep, we're proud of the work we've done to fund these improvements. Similarly, we have our fire and EMS. With our EMS team is fantastic, led by Chief Tresetta. We brought in MedStar about a year ago. We were having trouble a little bit with recruiting, and we were having a little bit of trouble in our response times for times that weren't covered. MedStar came in, which was something the county started up, and it was brought in simply to supplement the times and moments when we can't respond as quickly as we need to. It doesn't come at any additional cost to the taxpayer. It's already covered through the money we pay through our county taxes. Last year alone, they responded to about 30% of our EMS calls, and they've been a nice supplement to what we have. That doesn't mean our EMS is going away. If anything, we're seeing even better recruitment for our EMS now than we have in years past. So when we need it, MedStar is there to supplement. When we don't, it's our folks, our volunteers that are doing it, and they're doing a fabulous job. There's not quite a super clear trend line where you see increases, not as stark as you do with fire, but it's a fairly consistent 1,500 to 1,700 calls a year these folks are doing. And then of course we did fund a full EMS facility upgrade as well. Fire, you see a clearer trend of an increase in calls since 2016. We don't have any data for 18, that's why you don't see anything there. We just couldn't find it. But about 60% of the calls are fire alarm going off. About 30% are other hazards. Other hazards are faulty wires, gas leaks, a motor vehicle crash, smoke or an odor investigation, things of that nature. And then thankfully, only 10% of our calls are actual fires that the team has to put out. So we do see, again, a little bit of a more direct trend line from about 411 up to about 600 and change last year, but it's been handled exceedingly well. I've heard nothing but compliments from not only the professionalism but the speed with which our firemen and women are responding. So things are going well there. The investments we're making in new trucks, state-of-the-art equipment, they're making us safer, right? Whether it's an incident, criminal activity, or a fire, the investments we're putting into public safety are working. I want everyone to know that and understand it, and the data shows it. So with all that's sort of said and done, at the end of the day, we're working hard to make decisions based on what's best for the town, period, full stop. We're balancing budget constraints with challenging state mandates and the needs of our constituents to keep our community among the very best in New Jersey. At the end of the day, Holmdel Township remains in excellent fiscal health. We have a phenomenal CFO because we proactively monitor and manage increasingly challenging economic conditions. Our age-related demographics have changed dramatically over the past 15 years. We're getting older, which to me is a sign of a great place to live. Our household incomes, mean and median, combined with excellent home values, remain a key indicator of Holmdel's status as a premier town in Monmouth County. Despite non-discretionary expenses driving budget increases, we will not be increasing the municipal tax rate once again. And the governing body continues to be on an unprecedented path of both providing support to our schools and procuring land to prevent development. So, again, folks, the point of this was transparency, context, trends, to give everybody an understanding of where we were, where we are now, what we focus on, and why we focus on those things. So with all that said, that's my little AI graphic there, but that's about it.